Thank you so much, everyone. One thing that has kept us on our toes, especially those of us at the vanguard of watching the backs of the government, making sure that they are doing the right thing, is the issue of security. As the fourth estate of the RAM, our jobs and our duty is to make sure that all that's been promised, what the duties of government is done, and we report back to the people of Nigeria. And so we continue and find an update on some of the issues. So today, lawmakers say they want answers to the degenerating state of security in Nigeria. And the leadership of the Senate today met with the service chiefs over the security crisis in the country. It was a bipartisan closed-door meeting with the service chiefs, which is aimed at reviewing the current security strategies and to discuss new solutions. Take a listen to the Senate President just before the meeting entered into a closed-door session.
This particular session of the interaction between us is to look into where we are today and probably this present position where we are is most frightening, because it's like there's nowhere to hide or nowhere to go. It's like insecurity is everywhere, and especially if it is coming to the point of dislocating the security situation where the head of government, or where the government headquartered. So we really have to review and see what more we have to do and how differently we have to do.
Well, as the Senate President, hoping that answers are being given. Tonight, let's look at a few of these issues closely, and perhaps with the aim of proffering solutions to those who need them, and perhaps giving Nigerians a sigh of relief for some of the troubles that we've seen in the past days. I'm being joined by a lawyer and an entrepreneur, a proprietor of Kaftan TV, who emerged as a presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party, SDP, Mr. Adewole Adebayo. Thank you so much indeed for joining us tonight.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
It's on the note of that security meeting with the service chiefs, the National Assembly leadership had, that will like us to begin a conversation. And for someone like you who is seeking the #1 office in the land, maybe you have a better way to handle this issue as you project yourself and your party as an alternative in the election cycle that we are entering into. Now, that meeting held, and given reasons, and it went into a closed-door meeting. Do you see that this political intervention is going in the right way to giving the kind of succor or solution that the nation needs presently?
Well, it is not. But it's better than nothing, because up until last week, they were actually doing nothing. And when you are dealing with security, that's the full plenary powers of government, because that's the only department or government function that cannot be duplicated by any other person. So what they are doing now in front of television is what they ought to be doing on a daily basis. Remember that in the National Assembly, let me start with them, there are committees and subcommittees that are dealing with security. And when it comes to appropriations for security, the National Assembly has oversight after appropriation. Then when it comes to challenging the president, calling the president to question, interacting with the president, especially when we are at war officially, and if you look at the Terrorism Act 2011, it was passed by the National Assembly. They have a duty to ensure that the Terrorism Act 2011 is being implemented because it was signed by the president. So these are the duties that they need to do. I think they've been distracted from it. And what they are doing now is a panic measure, especially given the fact that there have been some reports of security skirmishes around the nation's capital. But as long as any portion of Nigeria's territory is under threat of instability, under threat of criminality or banditry, the National Assembly and the executive under President Buhari ought to have the duty to admit that they have failed and they need to take measures. And there are many measures we've told them that they should take. If they take those measures, I was still advising them up to last week, if they take those measures, there will be normalcy in the system.
Let's begin, and because you're speaking tonight, not only as a Nigerian, but someone who is eyeing the highest office in the land. And the questions that we have made up our mind to be asking is how those who are seeking this office hope to do things better, or what other ways in which they are hoping to handle these issues. So first and foremost, let's lay the issues bare. What do you think is at the core, or what would you say is the major problem of insecurity in Nigeria today, especially as it's escalating now, coming southwest or south from what we've seen in the northeast? It's gone to the northwest. Now we've seen it in many parts of the north central region up onto the FCT Abuja. What do you think is really happening?
There are 5 problems. There are 5 manifestations. There are some aspects of it that I may not talk on television, but there are 5 visible components of it. The first one, which is the most important one, is the fact that there is no proper government structure dealing with security as it should be. Because the way we have written our constitution, we've put one person as the commander-in-chief. So he controls the armed forces, he controls the security services, and the head of state function, the chief executive function, are no reasons for you not to do your commander-in-chief functions. And the commander-in-chief functions requires that you should have the first and the best intelligence in the country. You should pay attention to the intelligence and make sure that you are up to task, up to your best in dealing with intelligence. You will recall that when President Trump came to power after the victory, there were some concerns in America, the fact that the security agencies said it wasn't paying enough attention to security briefing. It was getting distracted during security briefing. It wasn't spending enough time to study security briefing. And because that system is more established than ours, the security agencies were able to leak it to the press to let the American people know that the commander-in-chief functions were not being properly done. In our case, it's even worse. There's inattention to intelligence. A lot of things that people outside are conversant with, the president of Nigeria has not been conversant with them. And I'm not saying this cheaply. I'm saying from admission by the people in government, by the president himself. You will notice that when Kuje Correctional Center was attacked, the president came openly on Twitter to say he was shocked. Usually, a president doesn't get shocked because you should have the intelligence. And when we went further, we discovered that the security services, some of them were saying they had over 40 reports that they had written on that subject. So I think generally it's poor intelligence. That's number one. Number two is poor management of our borders and neighborhoods. Because if the United States could go as far as Pakistan, as far as Afghanistan to nick terrorists, we should be able to operate all across the Sahel in dealing with that. You will notice that in the 90s, when there were troubles in Liberia and Sierra Leone, Nigeria did not wait until the crisis got to our border. We formed ECOMOG. We went there and knew the problem in the bud. So what they are doing wrongly, number two, is that number one, they fail in intelligence. Number two is that they are not managing the security parameter very well. They are narrowly focused on VIP protection, just follow the president everywhere. The third problem we have is that they've lost control of the armed forces. when the president loses control of his armed forces, he's not able to manage the manpower, he's not able to manage the deployment, he's not able to manage the morale of the armed forces, he's not able to manage operations. So those are the things that I, as an aspiring commander-in-chief, will know that I will not make that kind of mistake. I'll be in control of my services. I will make sure that when I'm making an appointment, I'm making an appointment based on operational understanding, that the person knows that I've promised to fight and end terrorism.
Yes,
so that way, when I'm making deployment, that works. The fourth component of this is that there are many pockets of communal disturbances. And when you allow them to aggregate, for example, you will see that we have the harder farmer situation. We have some ethnic situation around the Northwest. If you come down south, you will see that you have agitation of political nature, of separatist movement and all of that. So you have to have a way to deal with all of that to ensure that you manage them case by case, which is what I'm going to do, to ensure that, for example, the issue of herders being able to travel all across the country should be done within security parameters. And then the influx of non-Nigerians who are Castman's people just following their cattle, I deal with that. Then on the issue of those that have political questions, you have to ensure that there's justice in the country, you create inclusiveness so that this separatist movement would come down. Then the last part, which is equally important, you have to ensure that the people who are serving your government, the people who are in uniform and those who are not in uniform, do not become partakers in the business of insecurity. Because insecurity can become a war industry. And you remember what Eisenhower, the military man who became president of the United States, said that the American people should be wary of the military-industrial complex. Because once they get entrenched into a situation, you have a case of perpetual war because people are making money from these cases of insecurity. In Nigeria, unfortunately, it has become clear that the more insecurity you have, the more likely that those who are in charge of it will have money. And if you don't manage that well, that becomes a reason to allow situation to fester.
So it could be that some people are cashing out on the misfortunes of the country.
It is not that it could be, it is the case. And I've said it many times. In fact, a lot of people inside the government are making a lot of money from the insecurity. They are also cooperating with people who are causing insecurity so that this situation will extend. And it happens all the time. During the Nigerian Civil War, there were Adewole and Clemenson. They were managing the finance and looking at extended programs, extended campaign, wasteful campaign. They were trying to watch out for those who might be making fortune out of it. But I can tell you, sincerely speaking, that it is easier to defeat Boko Haram than to defeat those who are profiting from insecurity. And the government has allowed itself to be wrapped around by those people.
Maybe why this could be the reason why we're having much of a problem, because it looks so much that our fifth columnists in the government. Is that
I think to respect your medium and to respect the office I'm going for, but I can tell you that the headquarters of Boko Haram is the headquarters of the government. So there has been an intersection. You see, for the Nigerian armed forces, if you look at forces formation and everything, Nigerian armed forces would not need more than a few weeks to wipe out the terrorists. I can guarantee you that. Nigeria Army is very strong. There's no force around us. Relative to other geopolitical settings, geostrategic settings, Nigerian military are very strong. They're in an environment where there's no immediate threat to them. They can deploy very well. The officers are extremely well trained. And if you look at the worst, at the beginning I was very concerned about Boko Haram. I said they must be very strong. They must be so entrenched that they cannot be defeated. But when I studied the situation more, I discovered that it's not the case. In fact, on a ratio of 1 to 100, it looks like the Nigerian Armed Forces has 95% of the power, and Boko Haram has like 5%. So the rest is this. The military can fight terrorists. The military can defeat bandits. But the military cannot defeat the government. So the government has to make up its mind that it wants to end terrorism. People inside the government are not going to be making a lot of money out of terrorism. They're not going to make a lot of money.
When you say people are making money,
yes,
is it in terms of procurement of military hardware, or where is this coming from, this aspect of making money off the insecurity situation?
There is spending on procurement, there is spending on deployment, there's spending on using money to resolve difficult situations. You hold people to ransom, for example. You hold families, you have to pay money. If you look at all the trades, you discover that the government, if he wakes up, if President Buhari does exactly what the commander-in-chief should do, tidies the State House, tidies the presidency, tidies the services, there will be a 60-day period at the end of which there will be no bandit left, there will be no kidnapper left, and the president has to do that. He has to study all the intelligence, he has to trace the money, he has to see that anytime there's insecurity, there's incidents, and there is a lot of heavy spending, people who ordinarily should be living modestly in the services, in the government, start to have a lot of money made available to them. So you're
saying corruption is at the heart of the insecurity problem?
Corruption and collusion. The corruption has been there.
The intentional acts to sabotage.
And to perpetuate it.
Yeah, so that they can make money.
Yes.
Now, the question is, the solution. Yeah. I mean, if you were the president,
yes,
and I'm considering what the president said. He said, I've tried my best. And this is a general in the army. We said it, that this government will try its best. And if you look at it, perhaps this is the best that the government says is hard or can offer in this situation. So a lot of people will say, I mean, not to talk of people, you are a lawyer, you are not a general. You understand how to fight wars. You understand how to be a lawyer, how to own businesses. I mean, you think it's going to be an easy task to be able to solve all of these problems, the 5 problems that you have highlighted tonight?
First, with due respect to the president, his best is not good enough. That best is not good enough. And even at my worst, I think it's better than that best. First, you must study intelligence. You must know what's going on. You cannot be in an environment where you lose control of those who work for you, where the presidency is working against the president. And it's not a situation where because you were a soldier 30 years ago, and I don't want to make comments about his military service, I respect that, but the point I'm making is that he must have forgotten almost everything that a soldier should remember. And what you first have to do is that you have to know your environment. You have to have appreciation of the situation. Even if you don't have solutions to them, you have to know why this is happening. He has said he doesn't know why. So that's number one problem. I will know why, because I'm here. Yeah. I don't have access to the most classified information, but I have enough information to know that if you gather intelligence and you know where these things are happening, and many of these things are happening in feasible areas, and if you study the mapping of Nigeria, places where we call forests, and we say these terrorists are located, are places that the infantry can clear within a short period of time. And without giving too much of operational information out, you know that in recent times, in the last 6 days, the Boko Haram people have not been having a good time because the presidential guards have shown them that Nigerian army is very strong. So I think that sector by sector, Nigerian army is extremely strong. You see, when you wake up and come out of your window and you see a dog chasing a lion, you know there's an abnormality. When you see a goat felling an elephant, you know there's something is wrong somewhere. The Nigerian army is so massively strong. So strong that it is inconceivable that Boko Haram and all the Iraq tag can be able to contain them. Now, so I believe that leadership is important.
Yeah, I don't know what this tells you. The governor of Kaduna State, yes, one of those, the terrorists are threatened that they will kidnap him, and they will kidnap the president. I said the president was not even informed or wasn't aware of that threat from the terrorists. This was several days after the terrorists made this threat. Does it give you an inclination of what exactly is going on with intelligence or communication, or does it give you an idea of what needs to be fixed should you become president?
What I will fix first is I will remove infighting. That when the government, when departments who are concerned with security are undermining one another, when someone's failure is another person's success. You have to eliminate that. Secondly, people who have no business in security sector, who are just there to make money. You know, unfortunately for us today in government, all monies look the same, smell the same, taste the same in the mouth of people in government. So whether the money is meant to save our lives or the money is just meant to construct bridges or the money is meant for anything, as far as people are concerned, government money is for sharing. So people who have no acumen, who have no proper loyalty or clearance to be in position have access. And the president now, you are hearing of kidnapping around the country. It might shock you that the first victim of kidnap is the president himself, because he's in a place where he's cut off from information he needs to know, he's cut off from linkages he needs to have, and maybe because of fatigue, old age, or other reasons, or general lack of enthusiasm for the work, the president is not paying attention to many things, and many things are given to people without people following them. I'm saying all of these things to let you know that these are things I'm going to avoid. Because for you to swear to an oath and become president and commander-in-chief, there's a reason why they call you president. They're not silent on the commander-in-chief. They're letting you know that that is a core component of what you need to do, and that's why you need to pay attention.
Mr. Adebayo, I would like you to comment on this and perhaps what this means, or your own thoughts on the fact that the federal government today confirmed. We've had this report and we're wondering whether or not it was true to authenticate that story from the federal government point of view, but we knew that this was going on. It's a fact that the federal government today says that a purchase of 1.4 billion naira worth of vehicles was being given to Niger Republic, was made by Nigeria for Niger Republic. And it was confirmed by the Minister of Finance and Budget and National Planning, Ms. Zainab Ahmed, who confirmed today that there was a provision of intervention to neighboring Niger. Is not new and is at the prerogative of the president who has approved the purchase. And let me allow you to listen to the Minister of Finance, and I'll get your reaction. Why Nigeria had to spend 1.4 billion naira to buy vehicles for Niger Republic.
Over time, Nigeria has had to support its neighbors, especially immediate neighbors, to enhance their capacity to secure their countries as it relates to us. This is not the first time that Nigeria has supported Niger, Cameroon, or Chad, and the president makes an assessment as to what is required based on the requests of their presidents, and such requests are approved and the interventions are provided. Is to enhance their capacity to protect their own territory as it relates to security also in Nigeria.
Mr. Adewole, that is a statement from the finance minister at the request of Niger Republic that they needed Nigeria's help, and we were able to purchase. President said, give them 1.4 billion naira worth of vehicles. Your reaction to that?
I'm sad, because where we're supposed to have a government, we have like a bunch of Boy Scouts. Usually, this kind of operation is not done by the government in plenary. Usually, if you want to do this kind of operation, there are agencies whose job is to do it if it has security implication. The fact that we're having to stand on, appear on TV or in open council, and unless they are doing it for corruption, if it's done, there are agencies, I don't want to mention them, there are agencies created by the government whose job is to ensure that they do security relations with our neighbors. Because if you want to do security relations, to deal with terrorists, to deal with all of that, you have to be at the tip of the Sahel. You don't wait for the terrorists to get here. And in many instances, if they are doing it for patriotic reasons, they could be doing it for corruption. But if they are doing it for patriotic reasons, there are mutual assistance that you give to neighboring countries if you want them to do for you what you don't want to do at home. So if terrorists are coming from Libya, for example, and they have to pass through Niger or Mali or Burkina Faso, and you want them to do intervention for you, you don't want them to spend their money, especially since they are a little poorer country than you may want to assist them. But the way they have done this now is the reason why we have Boko Haram. Apparently somebody, maybe they're fighting over who's going to award the contract and all of that, and they mess the whole thing up. Now the country, everybody in that country now knows that Nigeria is doing this, Countries that don't like Nigeria or who are jealous of us now know that we are doing this. The whole program is now exposed, and it's a failure.
Yeah.
So it shows to you that, one, we have been suspecting for a long time that the government of Nigeria is not accountable for our resources, and they might be giving a lot away to foreign countries and foreign people. So that's number one. The second leg is that there could be genuine reasons to be of assistance to a neighboring country that is giving you cooperation, giving you intelligence. But if you are going to do it, it won't be in this manner. So essentially, Nigerians should know that it's a very bad day for us to discover that we have a government as clueless, as incompetent as it is now.
The question now is that this perhaps is not the first time that there are aids or handouts or, I mean, this kind of things coming from Nigeria to Niger to Chad and this kind of things that Nigerians have questioned why government will have to do some of these things, and without, I mean, the explanations perhaps are not as tenable to many Nigerians as they come. So the question is that you will wonder whether Nigeria can actually afford to do these kind of things, whether or not we can actually afford to give a 1.4 billion naira out when ASU is on strike, and that money, some people had queried that would do a lot to make sure that the university lecturer goes back to school. Even 1.4 billion would have done a lot in procurement of military hardware for our military right on the soil of Nigeria.
Okay, let me give you a potential commander-in-chief answer. Number one, money is not the problem of Nigeria. So that's one evidence. People have been saying the government is broke. Government is not broke. And I've been saying for many months now, the government is not broke. The government is broken. So the money of the government is now entering into private hands. So ASU's money is even there. So I hope nobody is believing that the reason why ASU is on strike is because government has no money. No. ASU is on strike because government has money, and people in government want to keep spending that ASU's money. They don't want to give it to the university. So it's not as if there's no money for ASU. And I've met many people who assume that the government has no money, the government has money for ASU. The government also has money for military hardware. What they have not been managing is procurement discipline, accountability, monitoring. That's where the problem lies. And this operation, which I suspect could have some security foundation, is that it is not managed at that level. In fact, if it's done for security, even the Minister of Finance, who is approving it, would not even know what she's approving, because ideally it will come under an omnibus budget for an agency that is responsible. I know that agency that is responsible for that kind of operation, and I don't want to mention their name here, but what they are doing now that looks like a gift being given by the President of Nigeria to a foreign country at a time when Nigerians are hungry, when Nigerians are looking for basic living, is a disaster.
So I mean, there are queries as to the fact that Nigeria receive aid from the United Kingdom, from the United States, from other countries. Yes. This may not be an issue, yes, but where some people are making an issue out of it is the fact that these are luxury vehicles that are being procured for these other countries. But
we see what, to be fair, given the way the government operates, even the whole thing may not be for, they may just go and spend the money. The president of Nigeria may not even see anything. So it could be a fraud. We don't know, because in a government in which Accountant General is in court for over 100 billion naira, a government that is spending trillions on fake subsidy, a government that is giving palliative that we don't see, a government, so there could be fraud there. So, but I'm saying that in principle, Nigerians need to understand, in principle, that under a proper government that is accountable, there's room, legitimate room, to relate with neighboring countries, Cameroon, Niger, Benin Republic, Mali, all of that, to ensure that you have security cooperation with them. But I don't know what these people are doing. And from the way I look at them, the way they're explaining it, it looks like they are just using the name of the president of Niger to steal money. Essentially, that's what it is.
Mr. Adebayo Adewole, the presidential candidate of the SDP, thank you so much indeed for your time tonight. I really appreciate it, and I wish you the very best.
Thank you.
Hoping that we'll see more of you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much indeed. We take a break, everyone, and when we return, the PDP leadership and major stakeholders are working to mend what has become a strained unity of the party. How easy would that be? The Wike Atiku division of the PDP is giving the party a lot of sleepless nights. When we come back from the break, we hear from the BOT what the outcome of their meeting and the way forward for the People's Democratic Party. Stay with me, everyone. We'll be right back.